The moment she quietly whispered, "Would you mind if I slept in your room tonight?" Every warning I had ever learned about trusting strangers came rushing into my mind. The rain outside had already washed away the roads leading to my farmhouse in western Tennessee. The power had been flickering for hours, and the young woman standing in my doorway looked exhausted rather than dangerous. But her unexpected request forced me to make a choice that would change both our lives forever. Looking back now, I realize that some of the greatest miracles don't arrive wearing perfect smiles. Sometimes they arrive soaked by a storm, carrying invisible scars, and hoping that somewhere in America, one kind stranger still believes in second chances. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness can change lives, that hope is worth holding on to, and that forgiveness and compassion still matter in today's world, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue bringing stories that remind us of the good still living in ordinary people. My name is Caleb Foster, and after losing both my parents within 3 years, I had inherited their old farmhouse just outside a quiet town near Nashville. The place wasn't impressive. The paint peeled from the porch rails, the barn leaned slightly after every winter storm, and the fields barely earned enough to cover the taxes. Still, it was home. I had learned to enjoy the peaceful silence after years of working construction in busy cities. My evenings usually ended with a simple dinner, a worn Bible resting beside my favorite chair, and the comforting sound of crickets outside my window. That September evening, however, nature had other plans. A violent thunderstorm rolled across the countryside, flooding roads and knocking down trees. Around 9 o'clock, someone knocked on my front door. Standing beneath the porch light was a young woman named Rachel Collins. Her small car had slid into a ditch several miles away. Her phone battery had died, and the nearest motel was closed because of the power outage. She wasn't asking for money or favors. She simply wanted somewhere safe until morning. I couldn't ignore someone standing in the middle of a dangerous storm. I invited her inside, gave her a dry towel, made hot chicken soup, and showed her the small guest room at the end of the hallway. She thanked me with tired eyes that carried more sadness than relief. Throughout dinner, she barely spoke. I sensed she had experienced something painful, but I respected her silence. Later that night, another fierce clap of thunder shook the entire house. The lights went completely out. A few minutes later, I heard soft footsteps approaching my bedroom. Rachel stood in the hallway looking embarrassed. She explained that ever since surviving a tornado 2 years earlier, she had struggled with severe panic whenever storms trapped her alone in dark rooms. She wasn't asking for anything improper. She quietly asked whether she could sleep on the floor beside my bed because the darkness reminded her of the night she lost her older brother during that disaster. Her voice trembled with shame, as though she expected me to judge her. At first I hesitated. Then I noticed the tears she was trying desperately to hide. Trust works both ways. I carried an extra quilt from the closet, spread it neatly on the floor, and assured her that she was completely safe in my home. Within minutes, the fear slowly left her face. The storm continued raging outside, but inside the room there was finally peace. Morning sunlight transformed everything. Rachel apologized repeatedly, convinced she had crossed a line. Instead of feeling uncomfortable, I felt grateful that someone had trusted me enough to admit they were afraid. Over breakfast, she shared pieces of her story. After the tornado, medical bills, grief, and anxiety had slowly taken away her confidence. She had spent years moving between temporary jobs while trying to rebuild her life. She wasn't running from responsibility. She was simply searching for a place where tomorrow looked a little brighter than yesterday. Her car needed several days of repairs, so she stayed in the nearby town while waiting for the mechanic. During that week, she volunteered to help around my neglected property. Together we repaired broken fences, cleaned the barn, planted late-season flowers beside the porch, and laughed more than either of us expected. My lonely farmhouse slowly became a home again, not because anything expensive had changed, but because hope had quietly returned. One afternoon, my elderly neighbor, Margaret Hayes, watched us repaint the porch swing and smiled warmly. She later admitted that she hadn't seen me laugh since my father's funeral. Sometimes healing arrives so gradually that we don't recognize it until someone else points it out. When Rachel's car was finally repaired, she stood beside it for several minutes without starting the engine. She thanked me for giving her something far more valuable than a roof for a single night. She said I had reminded her that good people still existed and that one act of kindness had restored a part of her faith she thought had disappeared forever. Months passed before another letter arrived in my mailbox. Rachel had accepted a position as a counselor helping families recover after natural disasters. She wrote that every person she encouraged carried a little piece of the kindness she had received in my farmhouse during one unforgettable storm. Reading those words, I realized that compassion never truly ends with one person. It continues traveling through countless lives we may never even meet. If this story has touched your heart so far, I hope you'll support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who could use a reminder that even small acts of kindness can create extraordinary change. Before this story comes to a close, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us about a time when a stranger's kindness changed your life, or how you hope to become that person for someone else. Your words may encourage another viewer who needs hope today. I still sit on that same porch every evening, watching the Tennessee sunset stretch across the fields. Whenever storm clouds gather in the distance, I no longer think only about fear or uncertainty. I remember the unexpected knock that reminded me that opening a door doesn't simply welcome someone into your home. Sometimes it opens your own heart again. And in a world that often feels divided, perhaps the safest place any of us can offer another person isn't just a bed for the night, but the quiet assurance that they are seen, valued, and never truly alone.